5 years ago, we introduced the Amazon AWS tiered system in cooperation with Amazon AWS. And if you needed to switch the amount, you could just launch a new Amazon AWS instance with the correct amount of connections you wanted. And you could even scale down in that way. But there were still some things where we found customers were looking for more flexibility. And that is why the subscription system came along. Now with subscription, you can, for example, buy a subscription for 10 connections and activate it on your buy your own license on Amazon AWS. And whenever you felt like it, you could just go in to our portal on our website and scale it up or down. You could go from 10 to 200 and from 200 to 10, and we would just charge you fairly and credit the amount that you paid too much back to your account for use later. It also unlocked new possibilities. One of the things is that if you had, for example, let's say a cluster setup where you have one or two access servers running side by side, accepting incoming connections, one of the things was that you would need to have a minimum amount of connections licensed on each server. So let's say you had, for example, 3 cluster servers, and you needed all of them to be able to accept incoming connections, but you only had 15 users. And then what you would need to do was either buy a fixed license key and install 10 on this server, 10 on that server, and 10 on that server, meaning a total of 30. Or now you can use subscription where you say, okay, I'm just going to buy a subscription for 15 connections, and I'm going to activate it on all 3 of these access servers, and they would just share the amount of connections. So any one of those 3 would be able to pick connections from that pool and use them. So you wouldn't have to pay extra to get all of these servers licensed. We have a model where if you run access server in a pair with one active and one in passive standby, we have with subscription the ability to say, okay, just license my primary node, the active node, and when it needs to go down for whatever reason, or it crashes or whatever, then the passive node will come online and use that same subscription. So you don't have to buy double. It would just be the same subscription, and it would activate fully automatically. So we still offer that option. We're not getting rid of the fixed license key system, because despite all the advantages that subscription has, and where we actually say, hey, this is really the recommended way to go because you have so much more flexibility. You have the ability to pay monthly, you have the ability to pay yearly, it's up to you. But aside from that, the fixed license key system is still valuable in the sense that there is one use case, and one use case only, where it is better than subscription, and that is for people that have a highly secure system where internet access is not allowed or strictly regulated. And in those cases, the fixed license key system offers an offline activation option. And that is pretty much the only reason why people should still be using fixed license keys. With the new access server that we're working on, it will be possible to have a per device certificate. So if any one of them gets compromised, you can just revoke just that one. Another major thing is that in the OpenVPN open source project, we have already tested and successfully used TLS Crypt v2, which is a better way of securing the connection as a whole with per client connection keys. These are keys that are used to secure the connection even further than what you already use for the client certificates. Um, and this system has worked well, and we feel that the time is now ready to bring this to a commercial product. And one other thing, something that people have asked for, and which we fully intend to do, is SAML support. And that is an authentication system used worldwide by identity providers, major ones like Google, for example, Jump Cloud, OneLogin, Duo Security, Azure. There are a whole bunch of providers that support SAML. And what this allows is a better integration into your existing user account management and to have access or cooperate and use that identity provider. If you're a user that only needs, less than 10 connections, Access Server, is still good because it is a reliable product that is supported by us. We even provide free support for it. Try finding that with any of the other VPN solutions where you pay through the nose for support. You have to pay upfront, usually credit card or whatever, just to be able to, get someone to help you out with your configuration. With us, you just go through our support ticket system or our community forums. You ask your questions there and you get answers. We even participate officially on the community forums. The money that people pay for OpenVPN Access Server doesn't just go to the company. It actually forms a kind of a loop with the community. We have freelancers working for OpenVPN Inc. that are very familiar with the OpenVPN code and are regular contributors there. And we basically pay them to develop new features that we think are useful for the company, but then open source that. So they're contributing their time, their development efforts, while getting paid by the company. And the results of that goes to the open source community, gets open sourced so that the OpenVPN open source project gets better. And the cool thing about that is that we benefit in turn because it goes through a public audit process. Any bugs or issues that get discovered by the community get resolved, feeds back into the open source community, into the open source project, which eventually gets integrated back into our commercial products. So the money that people pay for our products isn't just for the company. It is also for the product as a whole to improve. I want to point out is recently companies like us have become a target for hackers. This has come about mainly because of the COVID pandemic, because suddenly people are realizing, hey, people are working from home. And the way to get in is through these VPN solutions. So you get phishing attacks happening to people. You get hackers trying to break into these systems. And I won't mention the names of competitors here, but there have been certain breaches in the past year that happened to competitor products that have been pretty bad, I would have to say. And the price we have to pay for constant vigilance and constantly staying on top of this is pretty high. We have to be on top of this all the time. People rely on OpenVPN to be their basically first line of defense to accessing the networks. And if that means that you have to pay a little bit more for an enterprise level product that has that level of reliability and trustworthiness that we do, then I think that is normal.